We continue now at the top of Daf Samech Aleph Amud Aleph in Meseches Bava Kamma. This is Bava Kamma Daf 61a. On the previous Amud, the Gemara was dealing with the Psukim in Sefer Shmuel, in which David HaMelech asks a halachic question, and the question of the Gemara was what exactly was the halachic question of David HaMelech. The first explanation was he asked about Tamun Ba'esh, is the halacha like the Rabbanan, or is the halacha like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to items that are concealed, that are damaged by fire. The second explanation was he asked if he can burn down the plishtim were hiding among the stacks of the grain. Could he burn those stacks of grain, and thereby he would kill the plishtim, but at the same time he would damage the mammon of the Jewish people, he would damage the property of the Jewish people. And finally, the last explanation was he asked if he could use the stacks of barley to feed to his animals, and he would pay back the Jews who own those stacks of barley with stacks of lentils from the plishtim. Those were the three explanations. Now, in the final two explanations, it makes sense that you have psukim that talk about barley and lentils, because both barley and lentils are involved within the question. But according to the one who says that the question had to do with tamun bo'esh, ma'i boile kroy, what do you need these two psukim for? One to talk about barley, one to talk about lentils. And the Gemara says to that, Amar Loch, that man the Amar will respond to you, tamun v'chada mehanach kami boile, that he asked two questions, David HaMelech. He did ask one question about tamun, and then one of the other two questions that we just mentioned, he also asked. And the Gemara continues, Bishlam Laman Damar Hani Tarti. We understand, according to the one who says those other two explanations, meaning not the explanation of Tamun Bo'esh. Hainu Dechsiv, so that's what's written in the Pasuk. The Pasuk says, V'lo Ava David Lishtosim. It says that David HaMelech did not want to drink from the waters. It says that he ended up pouring it as a libation to HaKadosh Baruch Hu Vayasech Osam La Hashem. And so the interpretation is, Amar, that David HaMelech said, Kevan Di'iko Isura, since there is an Isser, since there is a prohibition involved, either it's the prohibition of destroying Mammon Yisrael by burning it, or it's the prohibition of taking from Mammon Yisrael, and then again he was going to pay back, but he's still stealing. So lo nichali, so David HaMelech said, I don't want to do it. That's what it means, v'lo ava David l'shtosam, even though he received permission to do these things, he didn't want to violate the Isser. Elo leman damar tamun bo'esh kami boile, but according to the one who says that the question was, what's the halacha in terms of tamun bo'esh? So the Gemara says, Michti, let us see, Gemara hu deshalchule, they just sent him a tradition of what the halacha is, what we paskin. Milo ava David l'shtosam, what does it mean that David didn't want to drink from them? And the Gemara says to that, Lo amrinu mishmayu, he didn't want to say the halacha in their names, those who delivered him what the psak halacha was, he didn't want to quote them. Amar, because he said, Kach mekublani mi beis dino shel Shmuel Haramasi, this is what I received as a tradition from the court of Shmuel Haramasi, from the court of Shmuel, Kol hamoser atzmo lamaves al divrei Torah, anyone who gives himself over to death, to a dangerous situation in order to learn Torah, those who had found out what the halacha is, they put themselves in a dangerous situation, so ein omrim dvar halacha mishmo, we don't say that dvar halacha in his name, because it's going to encourage other people to risk their lives for that purpose. And the Gemara continues, Vayasech osam la Hashem. Again, the end of that pasuk was he didn't want to drink from those waters, and instead he poured them as a libation to Hashem. So Bishlam Laman Damar Hani Tarti. Again, it's good according to the one who says, according to the ones who say the other two explanations, not the explanation of Tamun Bo'esh. Mishum Do'avid L'Shem Shamayim. The point is he did it L'Shem Shamayim, meaning to say, even though it would have been permitted for him as a king, since it was also for other people L'Shem Shamayim, he didn't use that permission. That's what it means. Vayasech osam la Hashem. He did that L'Shem Shamayim. But according to the one who says that it was a simple halacha question of Tamun Bo'esh, meaning to say, again, are they responsible to pay for these items or not? My Vayasech osam la Hashem. What does it mean, Vayasech osam la Hashem? And the Gemara says that means the amrinu mishma de Gemara, that when he said over the halacha, he just said it over in the name of the tradition. And Rashi explains, Do'avad l'shem shamayim, he did l'shem shamayim, again, kevan di'iko isura gabe inish di'alma, since it's prohibited by other individuals, so therefore he was strict, even though he himself as a king had permission. Again, that's what it means, vayasech osam la'Hashem. What does it mean according to the one who says the question was about Tamun Ba'esh? It means that he said it over mishma de Gemara, but not in the name of any particular individual. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah of Regeder Shu Gavoa Dalet Amos, if the fire crosses a fence that's 4 amos high, O Derech Harabim, or if it crosses a public thoroughfare, O Nahor, or if it crosses a river, Potter, in all of those cases, the person is exempt. That is not something that one would anticipate. And the Gemara says, V'atanya, but didn't we learn in a Braisa of Regeder Shu Gavoa Arba Amos Chayiv? It says on the contrary, if it goes over a fence that's 4 amos high, the person is Chayiv. It's a contradiction between the Mishnah and the Braisa. Amar Papa says, Tana Didon Kachasha Milmalo Lamata. Our Tana is counting from above to below, meaning as follows: Sheish Amos Potter, Chomesh Amos Potter, ad arba amos pater. 6 amos high the fences, then the person's pater. 5 amos pater. 4 amos is also pater. Rashi explains it's ad viad bichlal, that 4 is actually pater. Tana bara, but when it comes to the tan of the brisa, milmata lamalaka chashav, that tan is counting from the lower numbers to the higher numbers. Shtei amos chayiv, if the fence is 2 amos, the person is chayiv. Shalosh amos chayiv, if it's 3 amos chayiv. Ad arba amos, until 4 amos, meaning not including 4 amos, chayiv, the person is chayiv, but once it's at 4 amos, again the person is pater. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Dalet Amos sha'amru de pater, when we say the Dalet Amos is pater, afilu b'stei kotzim, that's even true if the field is full of thorns. Amar Rapapa, and Rapapa says to that, umisvas kotzim ulamala Dalet Amos, it still has to be that from the top of the thorns, it's going to be 4 amos until the top of the fence. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav says, Lo shanu ela b'kolachas. When we teach this halacha in the Mishnah that if it crosses a public thoroughfare, then the person is pater, that's only b'kolachas. That means that the fire, the blaze is very high, but it's not going to cross across a long space. Avol b'nechfefes, but if the fire is low, it's burning close to the ground, it can cross over a long space. Afilu ad meo ama chayev. Even if it's 100 amos, the person is chayev because it can cross that much space. Shmuel says, Masnisin b'nechfefes. Our Mishnah is talking about when it's low, and it says pater when it crosses the Rishos Harabim. Avol b'kolachas, but if it's blazing high, afilu kolshu pater. Even if it goes across a very small amount of space, still the person is pater. The person is exempt. That's not something that one would anticipate. Tanya Kavase, the Rav, the Gemara says we have a brisa like Rav. It says exactly like Rav. Amed devarim amurim b'kolachas. What are we talking about? We're talking about kolachas when it blazes very high. That's when the person is pater. If it crosses over the public thoroughfare, avol b'nechfefes, but if it's a low flame, ve'etzim mitzuyin, there's wood that's there that's available for it to burn. Afilu ad meya mil, even until 100 mil, chayiv, the person is chayiv. Avra nahar o shalulis shem rechavim chasamos, if the fire crosses a river or a pool of water that is 8 amos wide, pater, again, the person is pater. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, derech harabim, if the fire crosses a public thoroughfare, the person is pater. Man Tana, who's the Tana of our Mishnah? Amar Rava says, Rabbi Eliezer, the Tana of our Mishnah is Rabbi Eliezer. The Tana, as we learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer says, sheish esrei amos kederech Rishos Harabim, meaning up to 16 amos wide, like a Rishos Harabim, up until that amount, the person is still liable. Once it crosses over an actual derech harabim, then the person is exempt, the person is pater. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, O Nahar, if the fire crosses a river, the person is exempt. Rav Amar Nahar Mamish. Rav says we're talking about an actual river. Ushmuel Amar Arisa de Daloi, but Shmuel says it just means a water channel. Mand Amar Nahar Mamish, the one who says we're talking about an actual river. Alpha Gav de Lekomai. This is true even if there's no water in the river, still the area is enough space and it's deep enough that if it crosses that area, that would not be anticipated and the person is pater. Umand Amar Arisa de Daloi, but the one who says that we're talking about a water channel, is Maya in, it's only if it has water that we say that the person is exempt. Avoles be Maya lo, but if there's no water, then the person would not be exempt if the fire crosses that water channel. And the Gemara continues, Tanan Hasan, we learned over there in a mission of Ye'elam Afsik and Lepeya, the following things divide up a field in terms of the halacha sapeya, meaning it would be considered more than one field if you have this running through the field and you'd have to give peya for each one separately. Hanachal, first we're talking about a river stream. V'ashalulis, and shalulis is going to be a machlokas, what exactly it means. V'derech hayachid, v'derech harabim, if you have a path for the individual or a path for the public. And the Gemara says, my shalulis, what is the shalulis that's dividing the field? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says makom shemei geshamim sholin sham. It's an area where rainwater collects. Pools of rainwater collect in that area. That divides the field. And the Gemara gives a second opinion. Rabbi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi says that Rabbi Yochanan says amas hamayim shemechalekes shalal la'agfei. We're talking about a stream of water that distributes its spoils to its banks, meaning the water overflows and runs into other streams. That's considered significant to divide up the field. And the Gemara says man damar makom shemei geshamim sholin sham. The one who says that pools of rainwater, that's enough to divide the field. Kol shekein amas hamayim, certainly this water channel is going to divide the field. Uman damar amas hamayim, but the one who says the amas hamayim, avol makom shmei geshamim sholin sham lo mifsiki. But the area where the rainwater gathers, that is not going to be significant enough to divide up the field. To hanhu, because those, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Aleph Amud Beis.